My 38-year-old female daughter, 13-year-old female, has been playing this game called Roblox since lockdown first started as a way of playing with her friends virtually as well as curing her boredom. She was obsessed with this Roblox game that's set in a school because she missed her friends so much and it allowed her to stay connected with them. Her interest in video games has developed into an interest in technology. She's by far at the top of her IT class and has even started learning how to code in order to make her own game. My sister, 34-year-old female, and niece, 10-year-old female, have recently had to move in with us after my sister discovered that her husband was having an affair. They're staying at my house for the time being while she saves up money for a place of their own. My niece and daughter usually get along, and they both bond over their interest in Roblox. Last week, my daughter was completely distraught and crying nonstop. She said that she saw her cousin playing on a Roblox game and realized her cousin's avatar had a lot more items than usual. She decided to join her, only to realize that her account had been hacked and she'd lost nearly every item she had on her favorite Roblox game. She'd lost $800,000 of the in-game currency and nearly her entire inventory, which she claimed was worth over $5 million of the in-game currency. She had spent the last 4 years saving up for those items and everything was gone just like that. My daughter began accusing my niece of hacking her account. My niece denied it at first, but quickly broke under pressure and admitted everything. The previous day, they had been playing the game together when I called them down to dinner. My niece has only been playing for a few months, and I suppose she would be considered a noob. She begged my daughter to give her some of her items, and my daughter refused, saying that she should earn the items by herself. When my daughter came down, my niece decided to stay behind for a minute to transfer all of my daughter's items into her account. I tried to mediate the situation, but my sister is refusing to cooperate. She told me that it's only a game, it's not like my daughter spent real money on it. I attempted to explain just how much this game means to my daughter, to which my sister said that my daughter should count herself lucky that her biggest problem is a bunch of pixels on a screen. She said my daughter was a teenager now and was too old to be acting this immature over a game. My niece refuses to give my daughter her stuff back and says it's unfair that my daughter gets to have everything she wants both in real life and online. I told my sister and niece that both of them were acting like ungrateful brats considering how I was letting them stay in my home rent-free. Today I gave her an ultimatum. If my niece doesn't return everything she hacked from my daughter, they would both have 1 week to leave. I told her that I refuse to let anyone disrespect my daughter under my roof. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. I know what game you're referring to. The terms of service for the game state that you can be banned for hacking or tricking someone into giving you their items. If the current ultimatum doesn't work, tell the niece you'll contact the developers of the game who will ban her account from the game. However, keep in mind that should you actually contact the developers of the game and get the niece's account banned, it will also remove any possibility of regaining items that were traded from your daughter's account to the niece's. Comment 2. Your sister's child stole. She stole from her cousin, who treats her with grace and shares her game. She lies about it, and her mother tried to minimize her bad behavior and blame your daughter for having more and being too old for the game. Isn't lying and cheating why she's in your house with her child? Why is she teaching her daughter to behave like the father she left for lying and cheating? She needs to go back to her house and deal with her daughter and husband. You would not be an idiot now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post and for all the support and advice you gave me. It's been a hectic 2 weeks since then, and I've got quite the update for you. So after I gave my sister the ultimatum, things got pretty heated. She accused me of being unreasonable and not understanding the stress she's under with the divorce and all. I tried to explain that it wasn't about the game itself, but the principle of respecting each other's belongings and boundaries. But she just wasn't having it. For a few days, there was this tense atmosphere in the house. My daughter was still upset about her lost items, and my niece was acting all defiant, refusing to give them back. I was starting to wonder if I'd made a mistake with the ultimatum, risking my relationship with my sister over a game. But then something unexpected happened. My daughter came to me one evening and said she'd been thinking a lot about the situation. She said that as much as she loved her game and the items she'd earned, she realized that family was more important. She didn't want to be the reason her aunt and cousin had to leave, especially when they were going through such a tough time. I was really proud of her for showing that kind of maturity and empathy. We decided to have a family meeting to try and work things out. It was a bit awkward at first, but we all managed to stay calm and listen to each other. My daughter explained to her cousin how much time and effort she'd put into earning those items, and how it felt like a violation of trust when they were taken. My niece, to her credit, seemed to start understanding the impact of her actions. She apologized and agreed to return the items. But here's where things took a turn. When my niece tried to transfer the items back, she discovered that she couldn't. Turns out, she traded some of them with other players in the game, not realizing they were stolen. And some of the really rare ones had already been sold off for in-game currency. My daughter was devastated all over again. It looked like a lot of her hard-earned items were just gone forever. I could see my sister getting ready to argue again, saying it wasn't her daughter's fault. But then my niece surprised us all. She offered to give my daughter all of her own items and currency in the game to try and make up for what was lost. She said she'd been thinking about what my daughter said, about earning things for yourself, and she wanted to start over and do it the right way. My daughter was hesitant at first, not wanting to just take her cousin's stuff, but my niece insisted, saying it was the least she could do. In the end, they agreed to share the account for a while, working together to build it back up. It was a real turning point for their relationship. Over the past 2 weeks, I've seen them bonding over the game in a whole new way. They're teaching each other strategies and helping each other out. My daughter's even started showing my niece some of the coding she's been learning. As for my sister, seeing her daughter take responsibility and try to make amends seemed to shift something in her. She apologized to me for not taking the situation seriously before and thanked me for being there for them during this difficult time. We've all been making more of an effort to communicate and support each other. It's not always easy, with everyone dealing with their own struggles, but we're trying. My sister's been looking into affordable apartments nearby, and I've offered to help out where I can. Looking back, I realized this whole thing was about more than just a game. It was about learning to understand and respect each other, even when we don't always see eye to eye. It was a reminder that family can get through tough times if we stick together. So that's where things are at now. It's been a bit of very eventful, but I feel like we're coming out stronger on the other side. Thanks again for all your support and for letting me share this update with you. Am I the idiot for walking out on my friends after finding hurtful texts about me while dress shopping? I have 2 friends, Gabby and Shelly. All of us are 23 years old, if that matters. We were roommates in college and stayed in the same city after graduation. While the 3 of us are close, I've always known that Gabby and Shelly are the closest. They have a really sweet friendship. Shelly is getting married, Gabby is the maid of honor, and I'm one of the bridesmaids. Over the weekend, I went with Shelly so she could look at wedding dresses. Gabby was supposed to come with us, but got called into work last minute. I helped Shelly pick out some dresses, then she went with the consultant to try them on. Shelly asked that I take pictures and videos on her phone to send to her mom and Gabby. I was getting the camera ready when a text from Gabby came through. I didn't mean to click on it and was instantly going to click back out when I saw one of my Instagram pictures in their private chat from earlier that morning. Both were making fun of me for the face I was making and my outfit choice. It didn't appear to be very good-natured. I admit curiosity got the best of me, so I searched my name in the chat. I found multiple pictures that I, my boyfriend, or my mom have posted of myself, absolutely ripping them to shreds, ranging from selfies to pose shots to even a few baby pictures. They'd also make fun of me in general in terms of the way I talked, wore my hair, and the way I ate. This went back as far as I could tell, at least a year. My heart broke. It all felt so juvenile in high school. While we all joke around, I would never do this to them, nor have they ever even tried to instigate these types of conversations with me about the other one-on-one. I was in tears. As someone who was bullied all through middle and high school, it just brought me back to a horrible place. I put the phone in Shelly's purse and brought it to another employee, telling her to tell Shelly that I had to go. I drove home and had a long cry. Shelly texted me by the time I made it home, asking where I went. I said I was going home and we could talk later. When she did call a few hours later, she was understandably confused and hurt that I left. I told her what I found, explaining that I only looked further because of the initial text I accidentally saw. She went off on me for looking through her private texts and said those were none of my business. She also told me I shouldn't have left the store without saying anything. I said I didn't want to make a scene, but also knew I couldn't fake being happy for her. Shelly told me the texts were all in good fun, and clearly she loves me because I'm going to be her bridesmaid. She added that I'm only hurt because I chose to read all those texts. Later on, Gabby called to tell me that I invaded Shelly's privacy and hurt her by walking out. My boyfriend and mom think I did the right thing by walking out, but obviously they're a little biased. I just want some unbiased looks. Was I a jerk to look through the text and then leave? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the jerk. First off, I think you handled it well by not making a scene. Second, it's a gray area as far as you looking through her phone beyond just the one message you saw. I can't say if I would do it or not. However, joking or not, for them to have been making fun of you for that long is not okay. Friends don't do that to each other. The only reason both of them got upset is because they got caught. When someone shows who they really are, believe them. Likely, that went on a lot longer than just a year. You deserve better than people who talk about you behind your back with fake smiles on their faces. Comment 2, not the jerk. If I were in your place, I think I'd drop out of being in the wedding. It's one thing to jokingly make fun of someone one time, but it seems like they have done this to you a bunch of times. And it doesn't seem like it was lighthearted. If I were you, I wouldn't feel bad about looking through those messages at all. She handed her phone to you, and it feels like fate took the opportunity to expose them to you for who they are. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my previous post. It's been a tense few days since then, and I wanted to give you all an update on what's been going down. After the whole dress shopping fiasco, things were pretty tense between Shelly, Gabby, and me. I tried to give them some space, but it was hard not to feel hurt and betrayed by their actions. A couple of days later, Shelly reached out to me and asked if we could meet up to talk things through. I agreed, hoping we could clear the air and move past this. When we met up, Shelly apologized for the hurtful texts and admitted that she and Gabby had taken things too far. She explained that it started as a way for them to vent their frustrations about little things, but it had spiraled out of control. Shelly said she never meant for me to see those messages and that she truly valued our friendship. I appreciated her apology, but I couldn't help but feel like there was still some underlying tension between us. Later that day, I got a call from Gabby. She was in tears, telling me that she and her long-term boyfriend had just broken up. Apparently, he had been cheating on her for months, and she had just found out. I was shocked and heartbroken for her. Despite everything that had happened between us, I knew I needed to be there for her during this difficult time. I went over to Gabby's place and spent hours comforting her as she cried and poured her heart out. She confessed that part of the reason she had been so critical of me in those texts was that she was jealous of my happy relationship. Gabby had been suspecting her boyfriend's infidelity for a while, but had been too afraid to confront him about it. Seeing me so content in my relationship made her feel even worse about her own situation. As we talked, I realized that Gabby's behavior stemmed from her own insecurities and pain. While it didn't excuse the hurtful things she had said, it helped me understand where she was coming from. I told her that I forgave her and that I would always be there for her, no matter what. The next day, Shelly called me in a panic. Her wedding venue had double booked, and they were telling her she needed to find a new location with only a month until the big day. She was devastated and didn't know what to do. I knew I had to help her out, so I spent the entire day calling every venue I could think of, trying to find a solution. Finally, I managed to find a beautiful garden venue that had a last-minute cancellation. It was even more perfect than the original location, and Shelly was thrilled. She hugged me tight and thanked me for being such an amazing friend, despite everything that had happened between us. In the end, I realized that friendships can be complicated and messy, but they're also incredibly rewarding. Shelly and Gabby had hurt me deeply, but I knew that holding on to that pain would only cause more damage in the long run. By choosing to forgive them and be there for them when they needed me most, I was able to strengthen our bond and move forward together. Looking back, I'm grateful for the lessons I learned from this experience. It taught me the importance of communication, empathy, and forgiveness in any relationship. While it wasn't easy, I'm proud of myself for handling the situation with grace and compassion. So that's where things stand now. Shelly's wedding is back on track, Gabby is healing from her breakup, and our friendship is stronger than ever. I know there will be more challenges ahead, but I'm confident that we can face them together. Thanks for sticking with me through this crazy journey. Your support and advice have meant the world to me. Until next time, take care. Am I the idiot for skipping a family trip because my brother-in-law got a truck and my wife got nothing? My brother-in-law is a 28-year-old man with no job who lives in my in-laws' basement. He is obese and survives off of welfare checks from the Canadian government. He is capable of working, but chooses not to. My wife, on the other hand, moved out at 18, self-funded a degree, works in a good field, $80,000 annually, got married, and has never sought a handout from her parents or her grandparents, even though they both have the means. We spent our vacation time the last 2 years visiting her grandparents who live across the country. Recently, her grandparents, 85 years old, moved out of their house and into retirement living and no longer had space for both of their vehicles. Her grandpa decided to gift my brother-in-law a truck with a fair value of $50,000. His justification was to help him build confidence and give him something to care for. My wife was given nothing, and they did not do anything to even out the gift. We have a trip planned to visit them in a few months, but I have no interest in going to see them. I am mad at myself for letting money ruin my perception of them, but I do not appreciate how my wife was treated. I feel they take her for granted. We always go out of our way to visit them. All of our trips are self-funded. We have never asked anything of them, while lots of her cousins have been bailed out financially. I just have an icky feeling about the whole thing. My wife got upset when I told her I wanted to do something else with our vacation time. She got really upset, and it led to an argument. She took the stance we have to enjoy our time with them while we have it. My wife and I are currently saving for our first house, paying off student loans, and saving for our first child. We still drive my very first car that I bought 10 years ago. The situation stings as we could have used the help, while her brother lives a free ride and gets nothing but help all the time. Am I the jerk for not wanting to see my wife's grandparents because of this? Edit #1. My wife is extremely upset about her brother being given it as well, but is choosing to keep it to herself. She cried multiple times, and my sentiment of her family not appreciating her or taking her for granted comes from her speaking those feelings. Edit #2. My brother-in-law lives with my wife's parents, not her grandparents. He never sees the grandparents. Edit #3. By not see them, I mean postpone the trip to a later date. We just saw them last week while they were here, and now the trip there is in less than 2 months. My intention is to let the situation cool a bit more for my wife and me. Edit #4. This is the second vehicle that has been given to him. The last one was given to him by his parents. My wife did not get one from her parents. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. My in-laws favor my sister-in-law like this, gifting her $500,000 and the 2 others nothing. So they can choose to spend their money how they wish, and we can choose to spend our time with whom we wish. We rarely see the in-laws. They aren't allowed around the kids unsupervised, and we ask them for nothing. We don't vacation with them anymore. We don't sleep over at their house. We don't even spend Christmas with them. We've also agreed that when they're old, it's sister-in-law who has to tote them around to appointments and do all the care for them. They're no longer our problem. My family, on the other hand, gets all the visits, all the holidays, all the babysitting. If they can play favorites, we can too. Frick in-laws comment 2. It's genuinely really sweet that you're angry/frustrated by this on your wife's behalf. But yeah, I'd let it go. You don't know if they have plans to give her something else later on, but even if they don't, tell her that one possibility is that they see clearly how capable and together she is, and that she doesn't need help from them. Sounds like they would have been better off gifting her brother an intervention of some kind instead of a valuable car, but whatever. Grandparents going grandparent. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my update. It's been a tough couple of weeks since I last posted about my brother-in-law getting that $50,000 truck from my wife's grandparents. Things really came to a head when my wife's parents invited us over for dinner last weekend. They said they wanted to talk about the whole situation. Well, turns out they were pretty upset that we were considering postponing our trip to see the grandparents. My father-in-law straight up told me I was being selfish and immature. He said family is more important than money, and that we should be grateful for any time we get to spend with them at their age. I tried to explain my perspective, how it felt unfair that my brother-in-law keeps getting handouts while my wife works so hard for everything. But they wouldn't hear it. My mother-in-law actually started crying, saying she felt like we were abandoning them. It was a mess. The worst part was after, when my wife and I got in the car to head home. She was so quiet. I could tell she was torn up inside. Finally, she turned to me with tears in her eyes and said maybe her parents were right, that she'd never forgive herself if something happened to her grandparents, and we hadn't made the effort to see them. I felt like such a butt. Here I was letting my pride get in the way of what really mattered. I apologized to her and said of course we'd still go on the trip. She hugged me tight, but I could feel the tension still there between us. That night in bed, she opened up about how hard it's been for her over the years, always being the responsible one while her brother got coddled. She told me how when they were kids, he'd constantly get in trouble at school for acting out. But instead of punishing him, their parents would just make excuses, saying he was going through a phase or that the teachers had it out for him. Meanwhile, she was expected to get perfect grades, to never step a toe out of line. It broke my heart to hear the pain in her voice. I realized then how much this ran deeper than just the truck. This was about a lifetime of being taken for granted, of never feeling good enough, no matter how much she achieved. I held her close and promised her that I'd always have her back, that I saw how amazing she was, even if her family didn't always show it. She cried in my arms until she fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up determined to make things right. I called up my wife's grandpa and apologized for my reaction. I told him we appreciated the invitation to visit and that we wouldn't miss it for the world. He was quiet for a moment, then said he was sorry too, that he never meant to make us feel less than. He said he was proud of my wife and all she'd accomplished. It meant a lot to hear him say that. So that's where we're at now. Our trip is coming up in a few weeks, and honestly, I'm looking forward to it. Not because of any gifts or money, but because it's a chance to spend time with family and let them know how much we love them, even when things are complicated. As for my brother-in-law, I'm trying to have more empathy. My wife told me he's been struggling a lot lately, that he feels like a failure compared to her. I don't know if giving him things is the answer, but I get that her parents and grandparents are just trying to help in their own way. In the end, family is messy, it's not always fair, and it's definitely not perfect. But it's still family, and when it comes down to it, that's what matters most. Anyway, thanks for letting me vent and sort through all this. Writing it out helped a lot. Until next time, if you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.